So you've reached Gloria with Farmstead Talk, and I am here today with Kevin and Heather of Bare Bottom Acres, and they are representing their state of Minnesota in this homesteading interview. Welcome, and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, it's a pleasure. So would you like to share with the audience where they can find you on social media?
Sure.
Why don't you go ahead?
Okay. Well, we have a YouTube channel, Bare Bottom Acres, bear like the animal. We also are on Instagram and Facebook, and we do have kind of a neglected web page that we need to update.
Okay. And what's the web page?
www.barebottomacres.com.
Okay, very good. So,
and you can get a t-shirt there if you want.
And it's a nice one too. Very cute. Would you like to share a little bit about where you're currently living, a little bit about your family, and a little rundown about you folks?
Sure. He's poking me, so I guess that's my cue to answer this question. We're currently living in Minnesota. We're living just outside the Twin Cities right now, and we just recently, in the last just over a year ago, bought 40 acres of basically raw land up in northern Minnesota, kind of southwest of Duluth. And so we're in the process of converting that.
Yeah.
Okay. And what is the difference between the land that you bought and where you're currently living?
Well, the biggest difference is 150 miles.
Okay.
So we travel during the spring, summer, fall, 150 miles one way, as much as we can, to share and start building up there. It's 40 acres of raw land, and we are going to convert it into a working farmstead. We have a goal of about 7-8 years. So in this past year, we have put a storage container on there. We've broken ground for a couple of things growing, but the first year was doing a lot of cleanup with it.
Okay. And so compared to that land that's very rural, sounds like it's out in the woods, what about where you're living right now?
So as far as temperature difference, right now we're in zone 4, and it's going to be zone 3 up there. So it's pretty cold. It's one of the coldest places in the United States, actually. And up there, we we'll pretty much have unlimited space and possibilities to do things, where right now we're in a small kind of suburban lot where we have to pick and choose what we're going to put in as far as growing things.
We think of everything here in town as a lab. So it started off with the property that we had a nice garden, but it was ornamental. And for one Mother's Day, I got Heather a couple of raised garden beds. And then I've gotten more and more and more. And so we take a look at everything, pink celery, tomatoes of all different varieties. And we look at this area as a lab. Heather's experimenting with not only growing things, but then saving the seeds from them. And then we'll convert that knowledge up north. So of course we can't, it takes up a lot of space to do pumpkins and things like that. This year we're going to put in a ton of pumpkins up north. But, I think you can probably expand on that a little bit more. I created a playground for her to be in, and then she goes to town.
We do so much indoor seed starting stuff, and we're going to be doing a lot of season extension stuff this year too, like low tunnels and cold frames and things like that.
Okay.
Yeah, if it works here, mostly we think it's going to work up there.
Okay, so what would you say is the biggest challenge so far that you've seen where you're at now?
As far as, can you?
In the gardening.
Oh, well, I guess I'm more of the gardener, so I guess I'll answer that. Sammy and I, our daughter, we do a lot of the gardening stuff. The biggest challenge really is, honestly, she
wants more space.
Yes, you read my mind. It's hard to be limited. Like, I'm so looking forward to just we have 40 acres up there, and if you have like an acre big garden, of course you work your way up to something like that, but just picking and choosing and limiting yourself on what you want to do. And then also we do completely organic gardening, so of course you have pests and diseases and things that are challenges, but on this small of a scale, it's a little easier to control.
And so with that, with pest control and weed control? How do you manage that?
Basically, like with bugs, a lot of it you can do hand picking. You can do, I've done row cover netting, like over brassicas and stuff. You plant them and then you just put a cover so they can't even get in there. Things like BT, which is an organic, kind of like a worm killer, copper for fungicides, things like that. Neem oil, limited. I don't like to use neem oil because it can hurt bees, so I'll just use it on things that aren't flowering. But things like that, and then just a lot of, you almost have to be a micromanager. You have to go in there every day and look at everything to get those early signs to catch it before it gets too bad.
Right. So when you do get your wish and you're up on the bigger land and those gardens expand, it may not be so easy to be hand picking and row covering. At that point, what are you going to do to prevent like pest control? I mean, what are you going to do then?
Well, I think we're going to take a look at everything as a holistic system. So, up there we'll be able to have bees. We'll be able to have other plants as companion that can keep pests away or attract the pests to a different part of the garden. So it's that holistic system that we have 6-7 years to take a look at, and then really nail down those answers. At this point, I'm not an expert.
Well, I mean, environmental control too, hoop houses. We definitely have plans for a couple of hoop houses, and you can really control that environment as well.
And it will be a learning curve. As soon as you start going bigger, there's always new endeavors. There's always going to be something new that you're coming against that you didn't go before. So it's a learning curve. Yeah, but what a fun and what an exciting venture that you guys are on. That land up there is beautiful.
Thank you.
What about some of the sustainable practices that you have in the house right now that your family is utilizing?
He's poking me. I was like, we got to take turns, but I'm being poked again. So as far as sustainable practices around here, like he mentioned the seed saving, that's a huge thing. Because you buy something once, and then if you use good practices, you can basically have seeds forever. So as far as from a food sustainability point, that is really excellent. And then we're doing some, we grew all our own garlic last year. We've dried some of our own herbs. We're planning on doing all of our own herbs this year. Reusing things, obviously, like all my stuff is secondhand, so from an environmental perspective, I would say that's sustainable. But we definitely have a ways to go on getting to where we want to be in the future.
I think every time that a challenge comes up, we stop, we look around and say, where does it mirror with something that we're already doing? So in the town that we're at down here, water quality was a concern. So we had to get bottled water. And of course, you hate getting these plastic bottles. But we reuse them in that, and I got them stacked up in the garage, and they don't necessarily fit on top of each other nicely. But when we put something in the ground early, all of a sudden you might have 1 or 2 more cold days. So we're going, we pop these plastic bottles over the top of them to extend the season. So we just look at everything in that way that, you just don't want to go buy something new each time.
Yeah, for sure. Single-use items aren't very good and very friendly to the earth. So what are the long-term plans for the property?
Well, I think there's a ton of different ideas. At this point in time, we're in the brainstorming stage. And what the goal is, Heather has her master's degree in nursing. So she will stabilize our income once we move up there because her skills can move up north. There's hospitals. If you drive an hour radius, there's a lot of different choices that she can do. But my goal, or our goal, is for me to leave the safety of a full-time job and make all the money off the land. So it could be going and getting logs, cutting down trees, having a mill. That's one of them. Of course, market gardening. That we have a farmer's market that's in Moose Lake. It's not that far away. We've already done scouting there. I think there's a lot of opportunities, CSAs, tourism. So we want to, with all of the stuff that we're growing, it's great to sell vegetables, but okay, what happens if you don't sell all of them? What do you do with that? Is it going to be waste? Well, I'd rather turn it into a food product right away, a value add. Maybe it's a chili, something like that, that we can make and then provide. But of course, you have to take a look at all of the legalities with food production in the future. But as we build up there, one of my goals is to put in an industrial kitchen right away. So our regular old kitchen will be an industrial one where you have one of those dishwashers that does a whole load in like 3 minutes, just with it. So we're thinking value add end goal right away from the beginning.
What do you have in your plan to make you accountable, to keep you going?
The reason I think that we're accountable is because we're not doing it all at once. I think we're doing it in this really sustainable way where each year we set some goals. In fact, we did a video last year about all the goals we had for 2019. We got maybe half of them and some that we didn't have. So we're setting goals for ourselves each year, trying to meet those. And then just every year, you know, this might be the year that we have a shallow well. This might be the year that we get a deep well. Next year is the year we want to make sure to have the orchard in, and kind of setting that timeline for ourselves to get to where we want to get to before we're.
It's a great question that you asked, because if you would have asked me this 10 years ago when I was in sales, I would have said, I would have been very nervous at that question. But now with my current occupation and what I do, managing, time management, you know, organizing people, hitting those goals, I've got a track record of success that I have full confidence in myself to do. And it's not a matter of, I mean, yes, things come up, right? The reason why you make goals and stretch goals is you don't always reach them. But you try all the time to get to that. And at the end of the day, I know that I'll be able to rest my head in that we did everything that we possibly could, and that I'm going to learn from the mistakes, and it will be better every day. And so that question doesn't scare me at all compared to, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I know that I can do it.
You're very confident and you are very good planners. And the reason I even brought that question to you is I want other people to know that it's okay to have these big dreams and to see this vast land and just be so excited about it. But the truth of the matter is that burnout can come real fast. And I think that with good time management and good planning and taking a break when you met one goal, take a little break before you start into something, because that will prevent burnout. And that's the reason I asked you that.
I think a big motivating factor is we'll be working for ourselves.
Yeah.
I won't be working for somebody else.
Right, but
and, there's the cliche, if you are doing what you love, you never work a day in your life. It's amazing. I'll go up there, pull out the chainsaw, be cutting down logs all day, and I'm energized at the end of the day. I'm like, boom, up, ready to go the next day. Whereas walking on concrete all day, doing it for somebody else, getting 15 different phone calls from stuff that you're not passionate about can be draining.
True. This is very true.
And then when you also have the sense of urgency on the different seasons here in Minnesota, winter's coming. Winter's coming all the time.
Tell me about the container home, or the container before it became a home, and how that whole process worked. Where did you find it? How did you find it? How did you get it to the land?
A strong storage container. And also, it's eventually we want it to last, because when we do build our forever home there, we want to move this to the back corner of the property. We have like 8 acres of woods back there, and have like a little woodsy cabin back there where we could have guests, or we could do like, rent it out to ATVers, things like that, to make some money off of it in the future.
Right. But how did you get it? Like, where did you find it?
Oh,
well, it's a really good question. I think any major metropolitan area is going to have places where you can go and buy a storage container. And if you're buying one brand new, I think you're looking at about
Like
7 to 8 grand. Yeah, something like that, around 7, 8 grand, maybe even more than that. So if you want one that's used, it's very important to call around, because most of the places will sell it to you sight unseen. What you're shopping for at first is a place that will allow you to come check it out and pick out your storage container. There's a couple of places in the Twin Cities that did allow that, but I went looking at it and I called Heather and I go, oh, I just have this feeling that something isn't right with it. And she's like, don't do it. Trust your gut, don't do it. And so we found a place that actually wasn't too far away. It was in Moose Lake again. And they allowed us to go there and check them all out. And we found one, he graded them out A, B, and C. And so his idea is, especially up there, there's a lot of people who just want the least expensive option, don't care too much about the integrity of it or how pretty it looks. And then he charges more on the ones that look great. So we chose a B condition one because where the dents or whatnot were in it, we're going to be in the garage part. It's 40 feet, 24 feet of it we turned into a living space. So 16 feet is kind of, garage storage shed part of it. So that's how we went about it. And it was great that we did that, because how do you get that onto your property?
Well,
If he wouldn't have come,
good question. How do you get it onto your property?
if he wouldn't have come to the land to see how to get it on there, we would have wasted $500 on a delivery charge from the Twin Cities area.
Mhm.
So he came to the land and said, that the road, since it's a dirt road, is too narrow without you expanding the driveway, the entrance in, so he could make those sharp corners.
Yeah.
And so in the video, you can see how he delivered it and how we had to add in on that driveway in order to make that turn. But otherwise, we almost had like a pad of land that was raised up, and we just put it on some railroad ties. It was like it was made to be at that spot for us.
Okay.
Just,
So in your opinion, since you have practice at buying one of these now, if someone was to want to go out and buy one, so would you tell them, like, ask the people, like, how are you going to get it onto your land? Or should they contact like a shipping container specialist or something to transport that container to where they want to go beforehand? Or
I think with your land, once you sit down and you think about it, if you might have some challenges. I knew that we were going to have some challenges. You've got trees, you got infrastructure, is the ground going to be too soggy? All of this. But my goal was to have it on the land. So that had to be part of the equation. And it's why I felt uncomfortable with the previous guy. So it quickly became like, all right, it's great that you buy one, but it's not going to do any good sitting out on the dirt road.
right, exactly.
So that became part of it. So my first piece of advice would be to call around to where you can see it. And then if it's a concern for you at all, then, it definitely doesn't have to be an expert. If you have somebody that drives 18-wheelers.
If I don't know something, if I don't know what it is, I think that anybody that knows something more than what I know, they're an expert at it, because I don't know anything about it. So
yeah, but anybody who would drive an ATV or whatnot, or not an ATV, an 18-wheeler, would probably have the experience to go, oh yeah, you can get that done.
I just add that he delivered it with his truck. He didn't have, a big rig or something. He delivered it with his truck, and he had equipment to do that with the flatbed and everything on the back. But something that we didn't bring up that I would say to anybody who's thinking about doing this, that you might not think about is it is so important to look at it yourself, because some of them smell. You have to think about what they were shipping beforehand. Were they shipping something, toxic? Were they shipping fish or something? I mean, some of them we walked into some of them and it was like terrible older. And
Oh
if
my
you just
goodness.
ordered one sight unseen, you might get the, you know, the shipping container that had cod in it for 10 years or something. You don't
Oh
want
my
that.
gosh. Now, so that is such good information, because who would have ever thought that? I would have never thought that in my wildest dreams that there could have been fish and I got something delivered and it's fishy smelling. So
Yeah,
good
exactly.
to know. That's really good to know. I would have never thought of that. Good information. All right. Well, I'm glad that you guys got that over there, and I think that it's really exciting. I would love to have a container.
One more valuable piece of information in that equation is, where are you going to convert it? The one thing that I would have looked at is, maybe it would have been best to get one in the Twin Cities, convert it here, where we're here most of the time, right? In the middle of the week, where I could work on it for 4 hours, you know, after work or whatnot, and then ship it up there. The problem that we had is, you know, I don't have any of these skills. You know, I grew up as an only child. Father passed away when I was young. So this is all just experimentation for me. I'm buying tools for the very first time, using them for the first time with no frame of reference. And since time is so scarce up there, we wasted way too much time cutting the holes in it. Look at renting equipment, maybe instead of buying equipment, to use that will help you do this quicker. Don't shortchange yourself on the equation of time and how valuable that is as you're looking at the complete project.
And also electricity. I mean, we're off the grid up there, so you're using battery powered options, and batteries get chewed through pretty fast.
Yeah.
Good
You have to
point.
think about that too.
Very good points. Yeah. Wow. Okay, let's talk about that hoop house that you're going to be getting up there.
Okay.
Heather-
Some things you say, I just get so excited.
Heather's
well,
candy. Let's talk
yeah.
about Heather's candy up
I
there.
want to grow things. But
I do too.
Kevin is really good at, he's kind of the good person of talking with people and researching things as far as legal. I guess I'm not saying this very eloquently, but I guess Kevin talked to was it USDA or person?
Yep.
Yeah, and he made a relationship with them and found out about their programs. We have a contact number of somebody, like a point person we can call with all our questions. And we found out that they have a program up there. If you plant for at least 1 year, then you can apply for basically a hoop house, that they will give you a grant to build a hoop house. Now, you might not get it the first year, but if you are planting there year after year and you keep applying, the chances of you getting it increase. And so you could have this hoop house that's incredibly valuable, basically paid for, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. So, you know, a couple of things with that. First, your land has to be classified as farmland. So you can't get a hoop house in a residential neighborhood, even if you've got an extra 5 acres. So it has to be classified as farmland. If you try to do research, at least for myself, I'm not the biggest reader. I can read, but I don't like to read. So I'm more into building relationships.
Baseball number 2.
Humor is part of our channel also. But there's these government programs, part of farm bills, and they want you to have the money. So although it looks like it's buried in a bunch of legalese, if you make a relationship, they'll pull you through. I mean, as I was asking questions on it, Julie was the gal's name, she's like, just get stuff in the ground. And we didn't get in as much into the ground as we wanted to, where we feel like it's the right time. We felt like, all right, let's wait a year or two on it, where we feel really good, like we're not trying to cheat the system or whatnot, you know? Just because we got something into the ground, we wanted to have a lot into the ground to be impressive and everybody to feel good on why we're getting the hoop house. But she just said, get something into the ground. So she'll help us out. There's people there where it's their full-time job to help farmers out. And you might not think of yourself as a farmer yet, right? We're becoming that. That will go on to our the end of our email, you know, soon, farmer. but they do want to help out hobby farms. If you think of the big industrial farms, is it the government agency to help out these huge farms? Well, yes, of course they do, but it's for the little guy also. The people that are just getting started, that are doing those grassroots community type of gardening and food production. They love to talk with us. I asked her to come on out to the land. Sure. And she was, as soon as it was close to the winter, so they waited until spring, but they came out, did soil samples all over the land, which they're going to need in order to do the paperwork and everything like that for the grant. So they'll help you out if you make a relationship. Don't wait to pick up the phone because you're reading too many websites.
So Kevin, let me stop you real quick. This is such great information for people that don't know what they don't know in the state of Minnesota that want to farm. Is this a state agency or is this a county agency?
Well, it is the USDA, right?
That's federal.
Is actually federal.
Federal, right.
But it's a local office. But there is people at each level. So our local county has soil and water conservation. They have equipment that you can rent to put in food plots. Sorry. So at every level, there are people that want to help you out. You know, if you think of nonprofits, right? How does a nonprofit make money? By administering money, and they get 10% off the top. So if they don't help anybody, the organization doesn't exist. So if they don't help you out, these different agencies, they won't exist. Their budgets won't grow. They won't have allocation of it. So these people love to help out.
Who should people in Minnesota who want to farm, that want these grants and want help, who do they call?
Well, I wouldn't just say Minnesota, right? You're going to have a USDA office probably anywhere in the United States.
So do you think that what they offer, though, is different in every state, or is it?
Well, yeah, I mean, depending on the level of government, but I would start at the federal, right? As you hear about the current political climate and farm bills and bailing out farmers, that is all done from a federal level. So I would start at the top, and then those funds transfer down into local offices to be funneled out.
Okay,
so it might go from federal into county, and then county to administration, or otherwise it's a federal office, but it's your local federal office. So we just looked on the USDA website.
Not everybody may be as good as you at that skill of knowing where to call or to follow through with things like that.
Yeah.
So
if you go to a USDA website and they have a search function by your zip code and look at the first place that comes up. You know, we had a couple of different choices, but the one that I chose had a bigger title on it. It was like central administration, you know, and the person who answered the phone was not like the receptionist who forwarded over to somebody's email. The person who picked up the phone was the top dog of the office, you know, and her name's Julie, and she, I'll come on by, you know, because she's sitting in the office all the time. She's like, I'll take the call. When do you want to meet? You know,
that's
so
great.
These people have a passion for soil.
Yeah, that's great. So I guess what the message is here right now, for anybody that's wanting to get started, that needs assistance, grants, or any kind of education about where to begin, we should probably send them to the USDA. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Correct, yes. I would start off there.
Yeah. And then I just want to just jump on.
And they probably can refer then to local or whatever.
Yeah.
Great.
I was just going to say, I like other levels too, like anyone who's in Minnesota watching this, I know Minnesota has a program where they're basically giving you grant money to convert lawn to pollinator habitat. And so that's the program that they have. The county level, the county that we're in is Pine County, they have discounted trees. So we can get like 25 sugar maples for $32. And they also have equipment that you can use. It's like $14 an acre to make holes and to plant things and stuff. So if you look, if you ask, they have programs, and then your county extension too has classes on preserving and growing, and meet with the master gardener. They have all these resources as education that I don't know. They put a lot of money into these programs, but I don't think they put as much time and effort into letting people know about the programs. So you almost find them by mistake. So just do a lot of looking around at your county, state, and federal level.
I think
as we're getting started, it's really easy to exclude yourself. I don't deserve to go to this meeting. I'm not big enough to do this. I don't exclude yourself. Go there. Make connections. And if you ain't big enough, well, then it's just a return trip home. You know what I mean? But they're not going to say, "Oh, what are you doing? You don't belong here." I mean, you're just sitting there and you're listening. Okay, it's not like you have this badge before you go there. Don't exclude yourself. Don't count yourself out. Ask for help, and that's a hard thing for me to do. That's a hard thing for me to do. But I know that when I do ask for help and I get it, I'm so appreciative.
Yeah.
And so that's where the drive to ask for help comes from.
Very well said. Good.
He's good at saying things well. That's his job.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. It's good information. Let's shift it up a little bit and change it up and talk about one of your videos that you posted in regards to Can We Make It Work was the title, I think, about your religion and spiritual differences. Let's just chat about that just for a little bit.
Sure.
Briefly. We don't have to go real deep into it, but briefly.
I mean, I can kind of go into the motivation behind that video. We have another channel that is a YouTuber that kind of reached out after I had made kind of more of a devotional type video and just said, hey, maybe you guys should share more of your differences. I think people would find that interesting.
And I want to say
about it.
Wait, let me stop and tell you.
Yeah.
I watched that video and it was very well done. And I really, really enjoyed it. And I think that it's going to be very helpful to many people. Seriously.
Thank you.
It was very well done.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just think it's interesting because I think the culture that we live in right now, people have all these different viewpoints and there's just so much arguing, and Kevin and I have very different worldviews about some things, such as this video, which is about religion, the fact that I am a practicing Christian and he's not, and talking about respectfully about our beliefs and how we respect each other. And I think Kevin can talk more about that too. I know
as we're starting up the channel, we didn't want to use, I especially didn't want to use God to get viewers or to bring people into our message. I wanted to be purely on homesteading. But as the years gone by, I realized that the two of them go hand in hand. And it became this inevitable thing where it's such a major part of Heather's life. I was suppressing her by not letting her express it. And so that's how I feel like how we kind of came to this video.
Can I stop you one more time? I just want to say that is so loving. That is really, really loving. And it's such a... No, I don't want to get real gushy and kubayash or anything, but I really want to say that is so kind and so loving as a man and a human being to let somebody be themselves. Really, when you are in a relationship and you have children and you've been together for a long time, to recognize that and to let people grow like that is very admirable. And I just want to say thank you.
Yeah. Well, I knew it would be a part of it eventually.
Yeah.
I tried to hold her back as long as possible, but finally the dam broke and we had to let that be part of it.
No, but I want to add on to what you just said is that.
And the same to you, Heather, the same to you. I mean, he's not doing anything different than you did. You are both respectful and both accepting of each other's differences. And that is so important and so valuable and such a beautiful thing to see on camera for people that have differences and don't know how to deal with conflict resolution.
Thank you.
So beautiful, beautifully done. So, okay, go ahead.
No, I forgot what I was going to say. No, I was just going to say, to add to kind of what you said about how respectful that was of him, I think people kind of have their categories, and I want to show folks that, you know, even if, how do I say this? I'm sorry. I have to think for a second.
That's okay.
Well, please don't have stereotypes. It's, I guess, a big motivation about why I didn't want it. I want people to not have stereotypes. Number one, that maybe because someone doesn't have Christian values, that they aren't a caring and giving person. This guy is probably the most giving, kind, thinking of other people before himself person that I've ever really met. He's amazing. So that's not exclusive to having, you know, Christian values. And likewise, just because I'm a Christian, I know some people have stereotypes against, you know, me being judgmental or, you know, excluding people and things like that. It was so important, as far as my perspective, to show people that there's so many more layers to human relationships and to our faith, whatever it may be.
Yep.
Yeah. And he's a good guy. He's really good. He's a good boy.
So we're getting ready to wrap up. If you can sum up your homesteading experience in one word, what would that word be?
Well, can I take your word?
What's my word?
Because I got two. Adventure and fun.
You can only have one per person.
Okay. So fun venture is his word.
One per person.
I would say brave. Because I am not somebody that normally takes risks. And this is by far the bravest thing that I've ever done to do this.
Oh,
We're doing a role flipping.
I love that.
Usually she's the one to hold me back. And now we're going gung-ho on this. And it's like, wait, do I need to be the brakes on this? And she's like, yeah, sure. Yep, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. So.
Okay, what's your word?
Me?
Yeah. One word per person.
Oh.
She's in the
She's
If you don't want to, you don't have to. But brave was really good.
Yeah.
You can use the same.
Bonding.
Oh.
I would say bonding. You know, if it wasn't for this, as separate as Heather and I are, and how little we share in common, there's projects that we can do, weekend projects and everything. We built a deck together and we didn't kill each other as we were doing it. But to be able to see each other more, to be up there together, to be present in each other's lives, to build something together with your best friend, I would have to say bonding. It will be the glue in our relationship going forward, without a doubt.
You guys are going to make me cry. Wow. What a special relationship you guys have. Touches my heart. Touches my heart.
Once you started being nice.
Okay. Well, thank you for such a wonderful interview, and I hope to see you in the future and meet you guys someday, and keep in touch.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.